Colleagues, we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the Bills Committee, Statute Law Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2024. This is the third meeting. I'll now invite representatives of the administration to come inside the conference room. In relation to the invitation for public submissions, the Secretariat has received 2 submissions, and the submissions have been sent to members for reference, and one of them will be tabled for members' reference soon. The one that was sent to members earlier, the LC paper numbers are CB brackets 4825/2024 brackets 01 and 02. That is the submission and the reference for that, the response to that submission in particular. If necessary, I'll ask representatives of the administration to brief members on the response. Now, in relation to the other papers, that is LC paper number CB brackets 4824/2024 brackets 01, that is a letter to the administration on follow-up actions arising from the discussion at the meeting on 14th of June 2024. The response is CB brackets 4824/2024 brackets 02. So, administration's response to issues raised at the meeting on 14th of June 2024. I will now invite representatives of the administration to brief members on the relevant papers. Members who wish to speak, that is in relation to the responses to be provided by the administration, please press the request to speak button. I'm not asking members to speak on the clauses to be scrutinized today. Let me emphasize this. All right, representatives of the administration, please. Thank you, Chair. Regarding the follow-up actions arising from the discussion at the meeting on 14th of June 2024. Excuse me. In relation to the amendments to Chapter 1. Having heard members' views expressed at the last meeting, the government agrees with the retention of Section 21 of Schedule 8 to Chapter 1 for the time being. That's the first part of our response. The second part of our response relates to the repealing of Chapter 369I, 369J, and 369P, relating to the director may exempt ships or classes of ships from requirements of this ordinance or any regulations made under this ordinance. That is in existing legislation. We already have provisions to that effect before we would rely on UK legislation for such exemptions. So we consider it appropriate to deal with the relevant exemptions with this approach and thus repealing the relevant subsidiary legislation. Thank you. The administration has also provided some proposed committee stage amendments. The LC paper number is CB brackets 4818/2024 brackets 01. I will ask representatives of the administration to brief members on the paper. Also, we're focusing on the amendments. If members wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. Thank you. Representative of the administration, please. Thank you. The first proposed amendment would be relating to clause 59. That is, we would delete the clause in relation to the proposal for appealing Section 21 of Schedule 8 to Chapter 1, as mentioned earlier. And Ms. Doreen Kong raised a concern about Chapter 369E. That is, before it would be the coast of China, or right now we would have China to replace Hong Kong, the coast of China, and Taiwan. All right, thank you. When we get to part 47, we will make sure Ms. Doreen Kong can speak on her concerns, and the administration can address such concerns in detail again. Thank you. We have completed scrutiny of Clause 78 of Part 14 of the bill, and we will start from page 100 of the marked-up copy in the Chinese version. I will ask members to refer to the bill, that is LC paper number CB brackets 3349/2024, as well as the marked up copy prepared for the bill, that is LC paper number CB brackets 764/2024 brackets 03. Now, members should also have LC paper number CB brackets 3349/2024, the bill, the background brief CB brackets 4764/2024 brackets 01. We also have the relevant letters from the senior assistant legal advisor acting, the response from the administration in relation to the letter, the electrical brief, the LSD report. And I'll now ask Mr. Wesley Wong, SC, to lead the scrutiny of the bill. Mr. Wesley Wong, SC, please. Thank you. So Mr. Lee of the ARC Secretariat will first read out the number for the marked up copy for members' reference. Thank you. In relation to Part 1, for the bankruptcy ordinance, please refer to the Chinese version of the marked up copy 115, and now I'll hand over to the relevant colleagues of the relevant departments to speak on the details. Can you speak into the microphone? The speaker's microphone is not on. The speaker's microphone is not on. Thank you. It relates only to the Chinese text. That is, we will change the old name of the Legislative Council to the new name in the Chinese text. If there are no other questions, please proceed. Thank you. We will now get to the Probate and Administration Ordinance. Chapter 10. We will amend Section 8. It is an empowering provision. It would empower High Court in England that may do with regard to matters relating to probate and administration. And this would allow the relevant court to exercise powers, residual powers. So in page 118 of the marked up copy in the Chinese version, it has been amended to say that it would be justice of the case requires. The judiciary has no objection to the amendment. Thank you. No questions, please proceed. We are now on Part 3, page 143 of the marked up copy in the English version in relation to wills ordinance. We would have before some amendments to the wills ordinance that were made before in 1995. But we would no longer need section 23D in particular. That's why we would delete the reference to 23D here. Alright, no questions, please proceed. Thank you. Chapter 79, Surviving Spouses and Children's Pensions Ordinance. This would be page 144 of the marked up copy in the English version. So, in relation to the definition of appointed day, it says at the moment the day appointed under section 2A, that is a day to be appointed by the governor. As said at the last meeting, we will delete such reference to say a specific date. So here it would say 1st of February 1993. Thank you, Chair. Alright, any questions? If not, please proceed. Thank you. We are now on Chapter 94, Widows and Orphans Pension Ordinance. We're at page 154 of the marked up copy in the English version. For Section 4, subsection 2, it would say what an approved scheme is. Before, it would include the definition to say a scheme established in a British colony or protectorate and so on. And we have deleted the part that would contain the colonial reference to say place outside Hong Kong, which prior to 1st of July 1997 has been, it would essentially have the same meaning. Alright, please refer to the English marked up version as well. I will remind members that. Thank you. Mr. Tang Fei. Thank you. I do understand this amendment is to make sure the meaning is made clear that there should no longer be a colonial reference. But I am asking if this would mean an expansion in the jurisdiction meaning here, because before it would be a British territory. It would cover schemes established in a British territory, but then you now say place outside Hong Kong. Wouldn't that cover more places than what it was meant in the provision? I also want to ask, so if you will say a specific date, would that cause a bit of confusion as well? Because before while it does say that, you would say that it has to be declared by the Secretary of State. So I want to ask what the meaning is for this. Alright, thank you, Mr. Terence Lee. Thank you. We have liaised with the relevant department, and it is said that if we say a place outside Hong Kong, which prior to 1st of July 1997 has been, it would convey the same meaning. And as a matter of fact, Chapter 94 does not cover any new funds to be established. So it may be the case that it looks like it has a different meaning, but it would not cause an impact. Yes, Mr. Tang Fei. Well, it says the part, I mentioned the part regarding declared by the Secretary of State of the United Kingdom. Why is this retained? Thank you. Well, it is because it would refer to a scheme prior to 1st of July 1997, and that would mean a scheme that has already been declared by the Secretary of State of the United Kingdom. There is really no expression that can replace this part, and we have liaised with the relevant department. They believe there is no need to amend this reference. Thank you.
係好。
So let us continue. Well, hang on, Mr. Ambrose Lam. I agree with Mr. Tang Fei. We don't necessarily have to follow the wording used. We can amend the wording. For example, the word Secretary of State and so on, we can amend these wording. We don't have to stick with the old wording used. I believe this is possible. Anything further? Mr. Kong, excuse me, Madam Chair. I have a proposal in the English text. Shouldn't we use was declared instead of has been declared? It seems not so correct in terms of English grammar. Mr. Lee, we'll relate this concern to the administration. Let's continue. Thank you. Moving on to section 11 brackets 4. It's page 157 of the English marked up copy. On transfer to any other office under the Crown. An office outside Hong Kong that is under the administration of the United Kingdom. It does not affect the effect of the provision. It's simply a textual amendment. No suggestions? While Mr. Lee, please also tell us the page number of the English marked up copy. Thank you. Just a moment.
係啦，咁就去
Section 15 of Cap 94. It's page 159 of the English marked up copy. The amendment is actually the same as the one in section 11 brackets 4 on transfer to any other office under the Crown, and we're going to amend it to employment outside Hong Kong that is under administration of United Kingdom. And that is the amendment under section 15. Please continue. Regarding section 15, capital letter A, it's on page 160 of the English marked up copy. Under section 15, capital letter A, brackets 1, brackets A, a day appointed by the governor for the purposes of this subsection, we can replace it with the 1st of February 1993, which is a concrete date. This can replace the reference to the governor in the provision. And under section 15, capital letter A, brackets 2, brackets A, we can also repeal the date appointed under that subsection and replace it with a concrete date, that is the 1st of February 1993. These are the amendments under section 15, capital letter A. Please continue. Moving on to section 20. That is page 161 of the English marked up copy. It's about the calculation of pensions. Pensions are cost them to be paid by the Crown agents. There are actually flexible arrangements in place having regard to the prevailing situation, so the administration thinks that we do not have to set down the method by which the pensions are to be disbursed. So we don't have to make reference to the method, and we can replace it with the word pensions, and that is the amendment under section 20. Moving on to the next amendment.
你等一等下。
Well, just a moment, Mr. Kong. Yes, I'd like to refer to Section 20. Excuse me, Madam Chair. There's the word pensions in English. It's in the plural sense. Is that correct? Should you change the word pensions to pension? The provision in Chinese is in the plural sense. That is 該等撫恤金 in English, the pensions, and there's no impact on the provision. Moving on to the next amendment, it's on page 162 of the English markup copy. The Schedule Part 2, Section E, another colony, that is, as in transfer to the service of another colony. The reference is incorrect or inappropriate, so we're going to change it to an office outside Hong Kong that is under the administration of the United Kingdom. Please continue. Moving on to Cap 98 Post Office Ordinance. It starts from page 163 on the English markup copy. Administration, please. Please take us through the amendments. That includes repealing Section 2, brackets 1 of Cap 98 in the English markup copy.
General 嘅提述同埋咧第
And Section 22, 31 brackets 1, 32 brackets 1, brackets 1 brackets M on Her Majesty's service or on. That is the reference mentioned under Section 22. Three brackets R and 3 brackets S, 4 brackets 1, brackets 2, 4A brackets 1, brackets 6, brackets 5, 21 brackets 3, we're going to substitute Chief Executive in Executive Council to replace Governor. We will also replace Governor with the Chief Executive. (32 brackets M), 32 brackets 5, 32C, 33 brackets 1 brackets J. We will use the word government to replace crown. Any views? No? Let's continue. Moving on to Cap 115, the Immigration Ordinance. It starts from page 179 of the English markup copy. Administration, please. Who will take us through? Good morning, Madam Chair. Please speak into the microphone. Cap 115 and subsidiary legislation. Mainly these are technical amendments and the jargons. We are going to replace Crown with the Hong Kong Special Administrative Government. We have already consulted the Transport and Logistics Bureau. We're going to replace an international convention for the safety of life at sea, which has been acceded to by the United Kingdom and extended with the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea signed in London on the 1st of November 1974, or any convention that replaces the convention or any successor convention as amended from time to time and as applicable. We have made reference to the relevant provision under Cap 369. In Section 37I(3)(b), we will replace acceded to by the United Kingdom and extended with as applicable. These are our main amendments. Any more review? No, let's continue. Moving on to Cap 115 Subsidiary Legislation A, Immigration Regulations. Mr. Fan, please speak into the microphone, Mr. Fan. Page 237 of the English markup copy. Subsection 4 under Section 11. Regarding Governor, we will replace it with the Chief Executive. Page 239 of the English markup copy. It's a schedule. Under the schedule, there's the word Crown, and we are going to replace it with the word Government. On page 240 of the English markup copy, it's a form number 6. There's the word Governor. Likewise, we're also going to replace it with Chief Executive. On page 241 of the English markup copy, form number 7, we're also going to replace Governor with Chief Executive. Just a moment, please, Mr. Fan. Mr. Rincon. Form 5, 6, 7. Why are the dates still 1, 9, 9, 5, 6, and so on? Why aren't we going to change the dates as well, Mr. Fan? Well, member, are you referring to the year 1995 or 1992? Why aren't you going to change the years as well? Well, primarily, this time round, we're going to make amendments in relation to the adaptation of law settlements. But we'll review what member mentioned in due course. We'll see how we'll make the amendments later. So probably you can study the views of the members after the meeting. Yes, let's continue. Moving on to Cap 115 Subsidiary Legislation E, Immigration Treatment of Detainees Order. It's only an amendment in the Chinese markup copy. There's no reference to the English markup copy. In Schedule 1, it's page 246 of the Chinese markup copy. There is no amendment in the English markup copy. Let's move on.
We're now at Chapter 115M, Immigration Vietnamese Migrants Detention Centers Rules. Page 245 of the English markup copy. Representative from the Immigration Department, please. Thank you. For this subsidiary legislation, there are references to the governor, and we will replace such references with Chief Executive. And these specific sections would be Rule 3 brackets 1 for the definition of visiting justices, as well as Rule 6 brackets 3 brackets I and brackets J. Thank you. Alright, thank you. We're now at Chapter 170, Wild Animals Protection Ordinance. Page 247 of the English marked up copy. Representatives of the EEB, please. Thank you. For Section 22 and Schedule 6, when they are referring to Land Registry, they would say Land Registry Victoria. So we will substitute such references with Registry, and that will replace Registry Victoria wherever appearing. Alright, thank you. No questions, please proceed. Thank you. We're now at Chapter 221, Criminal Procedure Ordinance, page 250 of the English marked up copy. We'll now ask a DOJ colleague to brief members on the paper. Thank you. For Schedule 1, Form 4 of Chapter 221, there was a reference to Court Victoria, and it has been amended to say High Court Victoria, so we will only delete the part for Court Victoria and replace it with Court. Thank you. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you. I have a question. So we have some forms and schedules. For example, page 250 in the English marked up copy, we see some outdated wording that is High Court Victoria. This has been retained for quite some time. So I am asking, during the interim period, have you been using this form still without the amendment in the wording? Thank you. Well, right now in the form it would say Hong Kong High Court instead of High Court Victoria. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I just want to make sure in operation we are not using outdated wording still. It is only the case that we are making textual amendments in the bill. Thank you. Well, in fact, Form 4, it would be a notice of trial of indictment. So for this form, it would allow for similar formats to be adopted, which is why we have already made such amendment in operation. Thank you. I think this approach is appropriate. For other forms that have yet to be adapted, we should adopt the same approach, so that in operation we will not be using the outdated forms. As you may know, Chair, we have yet to conduct all adaptive amendments, so I hope this approach is taken for the legislation that has yet to be amended. Thank you. I hope the administration takes note of Ms. Carmen Khan's suggestion. All right, please proceed. Thank you. We're now at Chapter 284 of the Misrepresentation Ordinance. We are now at page 251 of the English marked up copy. Is it Miss Yik? Please speak louder. The speaker's microphone is not turned on. The speaker's microphone is not turned on. Are you speaking into the microphone? Thank you. We are amending Section 7 to replace Crown with Government, so that it will be in line with the basic law and the status of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the PRC. Thank you. Thank you. We're now at Chapter 311, Air Pollution Control Ordinance. That would be page 252 of the English marked up copy. Representative of the administration, please. Can you please raise your hand before you speak? because colleagues may not be able to identify the speaker. Thank you. It would be me. We are suggesting amending the relevant ordinances relating to waste disposal and noise control and so on. The references to be amended would include replacing governor with chief executive, replacing the old Chinese name for legislative council with the new legislative council, as well as land registry at Victoria with land registry. So that would cover pages 252 to 415 of the English marked up copy. Thank you. Thank you. Well, for record purpose, I think you should read out the pages in which amendments have been made. That would be clearer in record. Please do not provide only a range. Well, I think the parts would be continuous, so that would be clear. Thank you. Can you provide the specific pages in which amendments are made? For members' reference. Thank you. So for air pollution control ordinance, it would go from 252 to 272. Air pollution control smoke regulations, it would go from 272 to 273, or it would be 273 in particular. Air pollution control, air control zones declaration consolidation order, it would go from 274 to 283. Air pollution control specified processes regulations, it would be page 284 of the English marked up copy. Waste disposal ordinance, it would be pages 285 to 316. Water pollution control ordinance, pages 317 to 353. Can you please be slower, because it will take some time to flip through the pages. Thank you. Water pollution control total harbor and channel water control zone, chapter 358A. Next, water pollution control, Southern Water Control Zone order, it would be page 357. Thank you. I want to ask about page 100 and 322 of the Chinese marked up copy. So it says that for the definition of inland waters, before it would say territorial waters of Hong Kong. Right now it would say the part within the waters in the boundary or Hong Kong in the Chinese text. Isn't it a bit redundant? Why is it so redundant? Thank you. I think we'll have to ask a law drafting division of the DOJ to provide an answer to this. Is it Miss Leung? It's Miss Leung. Yes, thank you. Thank you. We wish to amend as little as possible in this exercise. Before, it would say tidal waters of Hong Kong, which is why we want to retain that part in the Chinese version as well. But then we can review this after the meeting. Thank you. We're now at Junk Bay Water Control Zone Statement of Water Quality Objectives, and it would be pages 358 to 360. Excuse me, please wait, Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Chair. I want to ask about page 360 of the Chinese marked up copy. I believe in the English version it's 353. Will the administration please confirm the page reference? I want to ask what the amendment is specifically, because this amendment is not mentioned at all by what the administration said earlier. Thank you. Can the administration please explain the deletion? I will ask the representative of the EPD, Mr. Chu, to provide supplementary information on this. Thank you. In relation to Summary Offences Ordinance Chapter 228, into the waters of the colony, in Chapter 228, the reference has already been deleted, which is why in this exercise, we only have to make sure the updated wording is conveyed here. Thank you. Chair, I want to ask, so for Chapter 228, the part has already been deleted. When has it been deleted? Thank you. Mr. Chu, please. In which year was the deletion made to or in the Summary Offences Ordinance? Well, according to Section 4 of Chapter 240, in that section, it was amended in 1989. Well, that is, the part was already deleted before that handover, and we're only amending this now in Water Pollution Control Ordinance. Why? Why did it take so long? Mr. Chu, please. Thank you. Water Pollution Control Ordinance has not had any amendments since then, which is why an amendment is made only in this exercise. Thank you. Well, let me say something here. I think the administration should take note of this situation, because if you're only updating legislation decades later, it is not appropriate. And in fact, before and after the handover, the legislation should have already been reviewed and amendments should have been undertaken expeditiously. Please proceed.
Hi.
Right. Ms. Chow. Thank you, Madam Chair. Water Pollution Control Deep Bay Water Control Zone Order CAP 358. The next one is regarding Ngao Mei Hoi. Next, page 364 of the English markup copy. Next, Water Pollution Control Deep Bay Water Control Zone Order. It's on page 365 of the English markup copy. Please allow time for members to take a look at the provisions. We can go more slowly. Next, Statement of Water Quality Objectives Deep Bay Water Control Zone. From page 366 to page 367 of the English markup copy. Please continue. Water Pollution Control Mears Bay Water Control Zone Order, page 368 of the English markup copy. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Madam Chair. Can the administration tell us within the boundary of Hong Kong, who defines the boundary of Hong Kong? On different pages, there's a mention of the sea within the boundary of Hong Kong. Who defines it? Who defines the boundary of Hong Kong? Can I have the administration? Mr. Wong? Mr. Wesley Wong, SC? Schedule 2, Cap 1 of the Laws of Hong Kong, referring to the Order 221, whether by map or by ordinates, by the coordinates, the administrative region or the waters of Hong Kong have also been defined. Moving on to the Water Pollution Control Northwestern Water Control Zone Order, that is on page 369 of the English markup copy. The Statement of Water Quality Objectives Northwestern Water Control Zone, it's on page 370, as well as page 371. Water Pollution Control Eastern Buffer Water Control Zone Order, it's on page 372 of the English markup copy. The Statement of Water Quality Objectives Eastern Buffer Water Control Zone, page 373 of the English markup copy. Water Pollution Control Western Buffer Water Control Zone Order, page 374 of the English markup copy. Please continue. Statement of Water Quality Objectives Western Buffer Water Control Zone, page 375 of the English markup copy. Please continue. Water Pollution Control Southern Supplementary Water Control Zone Order, page 376 of the English markup copy. Please continue. Water Pollution Control Tolo Harbor Supplementary Water Control Zone Order, page 377 of the English markup copy. Please continue. Water Pollution Control Sewerage Regulation, it's on page 378 to 408. Please give us some time. Mr. Kong. Thank you, Madam Chair. I can see that the word Crown has been changed to government, but I understand the reasons why you need to change crown to the government. However, in this provision, the word government frequently appears, whereas sometimes we can also see Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. A member also mentioned the same point. Maybe Mr. Wesley Wong SC can tell us once again. Earlier on, the legal advisor of the Legislative Council also pointed it out. We have already made a written response. The word government in the English text comes with the capital letter G. There's a definition in interpretation under Cap 1 of the laws of Hong Kong. In the Chinese copy, in the Chinese text, we have government and Hong Kong SAR government. So in Schedule 9 of Cap 1, we need to set out clearly the government means the Hong Kong SAR government. Afterwards, we'll go over all ordinances of the laws of Hong Kong, and then we will deal with this problem once again. That is, you change the word crown to the government. But definitely this is not an exhaustive list. We haven't yet gone over all ordinances, so when you go back, you can review the ordinances, and we should ensure consistency. We shouldn't solely rely on Cap 1. In the future, I hope that we can make amendments in one go. After the return to the motherland, we use the Hong Kong SAR government, and we will review all ordinances in which only the word government is used. Regarding the word crown, we'll have to see if it has anything to do with the Central People's Government. So on this occasion, it is appropriate to change the word crown to government. Water Pollution Control Victoria Harbour Phase 1 Water Control Zone Order. It's on page 409 of the English markup copy. Water Pollution Control Victoria Harbour Phase 2 Water Control Zone Order is on page 410 of the English markup copy. Water Pollution Control Victoria Harbour Phase 3 Water Control Zone Order, page 411 of the English markup copy. Please continue. Water Pollution Control Northwestern Supplementary Water Control Zone Order, page 412 of the English markup copy. Ms. Doreen Kong, I'll be quick, thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the principle of adaptation, but I don't think the amendments are well made in all schedules. These refer to events that happened in the past. That is signed by the Secretary for Planning, Environment and Lands on 1999 and deposited in the land registry. I think we should say the then Secretary for Planning, Environment and Lands instead of simply changing Land Registry at Victoria to the Land Registry. That is, there's no change in the word or in the phrase Planning, Environment and Lands. All the schedules refer to historical events or papers, scenarios that are in the past. I understand why we need to make these changes is because of adaptation, so we should add the word "dongsi" or in the English text "then." Otherwise, we're not making all necessary changes in the marked up copy or in the text. Mr. Wesley Wong, SC. These are historical references, but actually at that time, in the year 1999, the land registry at Victoria has already been renamed as Land Registry. Water Pollution Control Second Southern Supplementary Water Control Zone Order, page 413 of the English markup copy. Statement of Water Quality Objectives, Northwestern Supplementary Water Control Zone, page 414 of the English markup copy. Statement of Water Quality Objectives, Second Southern Supplementary Water Control Zone, page 415 of the English markup copy. Thank you, Madam Chair. The administration, please continue. Mr. Lee. Moving on to Cap 369 Subsidiary Legislation C, Merchant Shipping Instructions to Surveyors Passenger Ships Regulations. It's on page 416. Merchant Shipping. From the Marine Department, please. On page 416, we changed the word governor to chief executive. And in the English markup copy, we have the amendment on page 416 and on page 417. Okay, let's move on to the next amendment.
47部呢，就係江玉
Part 47, Ms. Doreen Kong proposed an amendment. We promised we would allow Ms. Doreen Kong to speak. Are we done with Part 46? Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 425 of the Chinese markup copy, Cap 369 Subsidiary Legislation E, brackets 42. The government proposed an amendment. The amendment actually does not cover Macau. So I wrote to the Bills Committee to see if the administration would amend it to the coast of the mainland, Taiwan, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and the Philippine Islands. The administration, Mr. Lee, as Ms. Doreen Kong mentioned, under Section 40, subsection 2, the administration considers the existing provision not appropriate. Thank you, Ms. Doreen Kong, for writing to us on the 13th of June, amending this to China. The administration has already replied to Ms. Doreen Kong. We have considered members' concern, so we agree that we will move amendment in the committee stage. We have already made the CSA amendment in the document. Ms. Carmen Khan. I agree with Ms. Doreen Kong. We have the same observation. That is, I'd like to mention this before we enter the committee stage amendment. I've come to notice that the administration will move amendment. For Laos, is it still correct? So this is a reference in the Chinese text. Is the Chinese name Liu Guo still applicable? Is it still appropriate in the Chinese text? In the English, it states as Laos. We haven't yet handled names of the country, transliteration, and so on. Well, I'd like to know why. These are the same words under the same provision or under the same ordinance. Why do we have to study that later, Secretary? Well, right now we're going to handle the necessary amendments first, but we'll also consider Ms. Carmen-Canson view. Thank you.
對
All right. So I asked the administration to review these references that may be out of date. All right. Yes. Chair, I have another question, but that was from a previous section. Well, actually, I wanted to say something as well. For page 417 in the English version, the amendment was not mentioned. I believe it is only the case that amendment would have to be made to the English version, not the Chinese version. Can you refer to that page and talk about the amendment in particular? Who is going to speak? The speaker's microphone is not turned on. Please raise your hand and let our colleague know who is going to speak. Yes, Mr. Xu. Thank you. In English, it was originally the colony, and it is to be replaced by the expression Hong Kong. So you're amending the part for colony, the colony, to say Hong Kong. Correct. Also, only in the English version, page 419. Page 419, please. Yes, page 419 of the English marked up copy. Again, the same amendment is made to change the colony into Hong Kong. Yes, Ms. Carmen-Con. Thank you, Chair. I think with clause-by-clause examination, the administration should point out specifically if amendments are only made to the Chinese version or the English version for completeness sake. And for pages 417 and 419, who is the responsible bureau or department? The Marine Department. Yes, Mr. Xu, please. Thank you. Well, Chapter 369's responsible department is the Marine Department. Ms. Carmen-Con. Thank you, Chair. I think with waters, boundaries, these are very important provisions. I urge the administration to conduct an expeditious review to make sure there is no other such expressions in the English version. I ask the administration to make sure amendments to the English version are mentioned specifically for our scrutiny. And we should also speak slower for members to ask questions if necessary. Thank you. Please proceed. Thank you. We're now at merchant shipping, safety, cargo ship construction, and survey ships built before 1st of September 1984 regulations, Chapter 369R. Thank you. It is the responsible department is again the Marine Department. The Chinese marked up copy, the page number is 431, and the definition of surveyor has had a part repealed. The part would be a marine surveyor of the United Kingdom Department of Transport and it is substituted with or. This is on page 432 of the English marked up copy. Thank you. All right, please proceed. Miss Doreen Kong. Thank you. For page 448. Why didn't you delete the reference to the United Kingdom Department of Transport in the Chinese version of page 448? Since you're deleting the reference for it in chapter 369R, why not delete this part as well? Yes. Well, in fact, it was in the previous subsidiary legislation as well. Mr. Lee. Oh, Miss Lam. Miss Lam, please. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member, for the questions. In relation to Ms. Doreen Kong's questions on the editorial amendments, these are notes added by the editor, so they are not part of the amendment exercise. We understand that some of the notes would have to be amended, but these are not subject to law. These can just be updated at any point in time. Thank you. Please proceed. Yes, we're now at... Well, we talked about chapter 369 as Ms. Doreen Kong asked about it. And we are now at chapter 369W, Merchant Shipping Safety, Fire Protection Ships Built before 25th May 1980. It would be page 451 of the English marked-up copy. Marine Department, please. Mr. Shi of the Marine Department, please. Thank you. Can you speak into the microphone? Please turn on the microphone of Mr. Shi. Thank you. Chapter 369W. In the Chinese version, it would be page 449. It has repealed the expression Secretary of State and substituted it with Director. And it would be in the English version, page 451. And the amendment is the same in English. Thank you. Thank you. Please proceed. We're now at page 452 of the English marked-up copy, chapter 369AA, Merchant Shipping Safety Grain Regulations. In page 451 of the Chinese version, we have repealed the expression for or a marine surveyor of the United Kingdom Department of Transport and have substituted it with chapter 369 in the English version. In the Chinese version, it would just be a person, essentially. Thank you. Ms. Carmen Khan. I asked earlier about the references to country names when they will be updated, and the administration said they would review such after the meeting. In this bill, we have seen some amendments that would grant the power to the DOJ to make formatting amendments. I want to ask, is it the case you can make such amendments with the formatting amendments? When will such changes take place, essentially? Thank you, Ms. Kwok. Thank you. With the formatting amendments, these will relate to the provisions, but with the editor's notes, it would be the case that these are information to help readers. For example, the date of a piece of legislation first came into effect. So we can make updates as we need. So when we update Hong Kong e-legislation, we can add or amend notes for readers' reference. I hope this aids the members' understanding. Well, so is it the case that you would make the amendment for this exercise immediately? Yes, which is why we asked for a 30-day lag for the relevant provisions to take effect. Well, I think the changes to editor's notes would be important. So if they are available for members' scrutiny, that would be ideal. Thank you. Please proceed. Thank you. We're now at Chapter 372, Kowloon Canton Railway Corporation Ordinance. That would be page 454 in the English marked up copy. The first amendment is made to Section 2 for the definition of appointed day. The specific amendment would be found on page 454. We have repealed the expression the day appointed under Section 7 brackets 1, that is a day to be appointed by the government, and substituted it with 1st of February 1983 so as to remove the reference to the governor. Alright, please proceed. We're now at Section 7. Page 460 of the English marked up copy. As I said earlier, as we do not refer to the day appointed under Section 7 brackets 1 in future, we will repeal the expression a day to be appointed by the governor by notice in the Gazette with the appointed day. Alright, please proceed. We're now at page 462 of the English marked up copy. Paragraph 1 of the second schedule. It has referred to the land registry. As we did before, we will amend the expression to say registry instead of Registry Victoria. Alright, please proceed. Thank you. We are now at paragraph 14 of second schedule. That would be page 469 of the English marked up copy. That is, the MPC has said that we would not retain the powers of the United Kingdom after the handover, which is why we have deleted the reference to the government of the United Kingdom, entitling the Mass Transit Railway Corporation or the government of the United Kingdom to say entitling the Mass Transit Railway Corporation only. Alright? Thank you. Please proceed. Again, in the second schedule, paragraph 18. Page 471 of the English marked up copy. The paragraph referred to Crown land, and now it should be government land. So we have repealed the word Crown and replaced it with the word government. And this amendment essentially was already made in Chapter 1 before, and we are amending this to reflect such adaptation. Thank you. Let's move on to paragraph 20, page 472 of the marked up copy. Before the handover. In chapter 372, we have such references to the crown. And in fact, as I said earlier, in chapter 1, we have already made for such amendment. We are now amending the specific provision to reflect the adaptive amendment to say adjoining land held by the government instead of held by the crown. Thank you.
好，咁跟住落嚟呢，
Next, moving on to Cap 374, Road Traffic Ordinance, page 474 of the English markup copy. Section 123, brackets 4, we will repeal Registry Victoria and replace it with Registry. That's the only amendment in Cap 374. Please continue. Next, Noise Control Ordinance, Cap 400. Starting from page 475 of the English markup copy. I invite the relevant bureau or department to take us through the amendments. Ms. Chow? Thank you, Madam Chair. We propose amendments in relation to the word governor from governor to chief executive. There are also relevant Chinese amendments. These amendments are found on page 475 to 484 of the English markup copy. All right, let's continue. Moving on to Cap 406. The electricity registration regulations. We will. Well, excuse me, please give us the page number. English markup copy, page 485. That includes not using the word governor. And we also propose setting down the concrete dates. There's no actual impact on the effect of the provisions. Next, Merchant Shipping Registration Ordinance, Cap 415. Page 486 of the English markup copy. The Marine Department, please. On page 487, there's an amendment in relation to the definition of commencement date. We will replace the date appointed by the governor under section 1 brackets 2 for the coming into operation of this ordinance with the exact date, the 3rd of December 1990. Tai Lam Tunnel and Yuen Long Approach Road Ordinance, Cap 474. In the English markup copy from page 491 to 506. There are textual amendments. Replacing governor with chief executive. There is also a Chinese amendment, which is not seen in English. Yet another Chinese amendment from Lafat Gok to Lafat Boi. There's no change in the English markup copy.
OK， 請繼續。
Let's continue. Next, the Airport Authority Ordinance, Cap 483. In the English markup copy, page 507. Section 8, brackets B. As we can see from the provision, it's with the government of any country or territory, and we recommend replacing it with comma, territory, or place. In order to clearly reflect the fact that Section 8 refers to Macau, the mainland, as well as Taiwan. Can you tell us more about the amendment? Right, in Chinese, originally it is country or territory. However, right now we propose adding or place, making it any country, comma, territory, or place. The word territory in different contexts contains the connotation of sovereignty. So we need to clearly express that the provision actually applies to Macau, the mainland, and Taiwan as well. Other amendments in relation to adaptation also contain the relevant amendment. That is, we add or place in order to clearly set out the scope covered. So what is your concern or consideration? In Chinese, what is the difference between 地區 and 地方? That is in English, territory or place. What is the difference between these two words in the Chinese text? Please turn on the mic for Mr. Wesley Wong. Thank you. In the English text, the word territory contains the connotation of sovereignty. Before our return to the motherland, in the relevant committee, that is black, we use the word territory, but we actually want to prevent any ambiguity in relation to sovereignty, so we propose adding the word or place. And the legal drafting division thinks that the word 地方 in Chinese is the Chinese equivalent to the English word place. Cap 4A3, Subsidiary Legislation A, Airport Authority by Law. On page 508 of the English markup copy. The amendment is on page 510 of the English markup copy. It's about the operation or management of the relevant area. There's a reference to Cap 374, that is Road Traffic Ordinance and Subsidiary Legislation. There's a reference to Crown Land. In fact, under Cap 374 and its subsidiary legislation, the word Crown Land has been amended in relation to adaptation. So in order to ensure appropriacy as well as consistency, we also need to make the textual amendments in order to reflect the adapted amendments. The amendments can be seen in Schedule 2, Part 2, Section 1, brackets 1, brackets B.
好，大家有冇意見？係，請你繼續。
係好啦，咁就係就住同一個
Thank you. The next reference to crowned land to government land can be seen on page 520 of the English markup copy. Well, that is, I mean, page 519 of the English markup copy. In the English markup copy, yes, that is on page 519, where the changes from crown land to the government land can be seen. Please continue. Next, Cap 498, Tingma Control Area Ordinance. From page 522 to page 529 of the English markup copy, all the amendments involve changing from governor to chief executive. They concern Section 27, Section 28, and Section 30 of Cap 498.
好，咁跟住落嚟咧就
Next, Cap 514, Patents Ordinance. Page 530 of the English markup copy. I'd like to ask the IPD colleague to tell you more. We propose amending patent ordinance. Well, please tell us the page number of the marked up copy as well. Please tell us the page number of the English marked up copy as well. Well, page 530 to 531, we propose changing territorial waters to waters under section 75, brackets D and brackets F. The amendments in the English markup copy is the same, from territorial waters to waters. Next, Cap 520, Discovery Bay Tunnel Link Ordinance. On page 532 to page 536 of the English markup copy, there are amendments to two sets of words. First, governor to chief executive. And in the Chinese marked up copy, we can see changing from La Fat Gok to La Fat Wei in the Chinese text. There's no amendment to the English copy. The amendments take place under section 11, 12, 26, 30, and 35. Please continue. Cap 559, Trademarks Ordinance. On page 537 of the English markup copy, colleague from the IPD, please. We propose amending Cap 559. We propose changing Schedule 2, Section 1, brackets 2, brackets E, and Schedule 2, Section 1, bracket 6. We propose changing foreign jurisdictions to non-Hong Kong jurisdictions. On page 537 to page 539 of the English markup copy, we propose changing competent authorities in foreign to competent authorities to non-Hong Kong.
Ms. Carmen Khan, yes. Chair, I want to ask about page 531 of the Chinese marked up copy. Page 531 of the Chinese marked up copy. I believe in English it's also It is 5:31. In section 75, brackets D, slightly before the amendment, it says that for vessels registered in any of the Paris Convention countries or WTO member countries, territories, or areas other than Hong Kong. So they do not say place here, they say areas. So this seems to be different in the wording adopted for another amendment or amendments. So in Chinese, it says the same thing, a place, but here, even with the same Chinese expression, it has different English expressions. One says area, another says place. Thank you. Well, I think we have yet to get to this part. So area, it actually is a definition in the WTO. So it would say country, territories, or areas, which is why we have adopted such wording. It is a different framework from ours. So I think we can ask the relevant bureau or department to provide more information when we get to that part. I believe Ms. Carmen Khan was talking about the inconsistent translation. I also want to ask about the Air Authority bylaw. That is page 508 of the Chinese marked up copy. It says territory or place, right? The amendment. And the secretary for the LRC explained earlier that place would be the English version of the Chinese word that we are seeing here. So as to cover, say, the mainland and Taiwan and Macau, but then we see the same Chinese word used here, but the English translation is area instead of place. So Ms. Kwok said that it is the English translation under the WTO framework. Is my understanding correct? So yes, it is exactly that. So with Airport Authority bylaw, we would translate the Chinese word, the same Chinese word, into place, not an area. Is it an appropriate translation? Would that match with the ordinary meaning? I want to know why is there such inconsistency. Ms. Kwok. Or Ms. Lam. Ms. Lam. Yes? Excuse me. Yes, Secretary of the RSC. Please turn on the microphone for the Secretary of the RSC. It is turned on. Thank you, Chair. Well, in the adaptive exercise, we have adopted a consistent wording that we would make use of place to say this for the translation of the Chinese word specifically. So with Airport Authority bylaw, because it is under the framework of the government, so we have adopted the translation of place. But then for the specific section that the member referred to, it would be under the WTO framework. Let me also stress this, for previous adaptive amendments, we have also adopted place as the translation for the Chinese word referred. Thank you. Mr. Holden Chow. Well, I can perhaps give some information. In fact, this issue was also discussed during the discussions for Article 23. It was said that it was exactly as the Secretary of the RC explained for territory, because it would have a connotation of sovereignty. So they have used the word place to express other places. And this was also adopted in Article 23. I think it would explain why in other legislation, place would be used, but here specifically, area would be used because it is under WTO framework. I think the administration may have to review if it is necessary to make sure if it is consistent. And in fact, I think we should think about whether we should or we need to adopt the wording of the WTO framework, or should we keep the word place. But it may not be dealt with in the bill, I believe. All right, I'll ask the administration to proceed. We have the last two parts left. That is the amendments relating to Chapter 1034 and 1055. That is the Masonic Benevolence Fund Incorporation Ordinance and the Settling Hall Trustees Incorporation Ordinance. That would be pages 540 to 541 of the English markup copy. As we said at the last meeting, according to Schedule 8 of Chapter 1, as well as the relevant provisions in the legislation publication ordinance, we have made the relevant amendments, and we have consulted the two bodies. They have expressed no objections in relation to the amendments. Yes, Dr. Simon Lee would like to ask about the issue for place. Well, in fact, in Article 151 of the Basic Law, I don't think the discussion was very detailed, but it would say foreign states and regions. So I think this can act as a reference for the administration. All right, anything else? Well, I would like to speak on this issue as well. I myself have some reservations in relation to the use of the word place, whether it can deal with all the potential scenarios. I think we can think about the different meanings of regions, places, and areas. Of course, we may not be able to deal with this issue in this bill. But let me say this, for the discussions of the Bilingual Laws Advisory Committee Black, the discussion was not as in-depth as we are today. And we need to also make reference to international conventions and the approach taken by international bodies. I suggest the DOJ can provide some advice to the relevant bureaus and departments if necessary. Well, I think that's it. Any other comments from members? Any comments from members? All right. Legal advisor. Said that Part 15 has not been discussed thoroughly. Can the administration talk about that part? Please turn on the microphone. Thank you. Part 15 would relate to the minor amendments to the Chinese and English texts. And I will now ask the relevant colleague, Ms. Kwok, to talk about the specific changes. Thank you. Page 110 in the English text. This is only amendment to the English text. We have deleted the word "the." That is, it would say for the purposes of paragraph 2A instead of the paragraph 2A. And then we have made an amendment to the long title to the radiation ordinance. That is page 111 of the English marked up copy. We have deleted the words import and export. We have amended the long title because as we address the legal advisor's concern, we have already had the import and export matters dealt with in another ordinance. That's why there is no need to specify import and export specifically in the long title of this ordinance. Thank you. We are now at division 3. It would amend only the Chinese text, page 101 of the Chinese marked up copy. We have amended chapter 369S to amend the references to decibels dB into the Chinese version. This is to make sure this would align with the wording in other existing legislation, which uses the Chinese name of decibels. Another change that is also only made to the Chinese text. That is amendment to chapter 473. So in English it would say under this ordinance, but in Chinese it was not reflected. So we have added an expression to this effect in the Chinese text. If there are no questions from members, we'll move on to the next amendment. Page 103 and 104 of the Chinese marked up copy. Again, changes made to chapter 473. We would have a minor amendment to make sure it says order number 59. We have another amendment to chapter 478L, page 106 of the Chinese marked up copy. We have amended some parts in the definition of tons and tonnage. We have a similar amendment in another legislation, so I can talk more about why such change has to be made. So in the relevant subsidiary legislation, we do not have a specific Chinese name for the regulations then. That's why we have included only the English name in the Chinese provision. We have now picked out these provisions to make sure a Chinese name is available to replace the relevant English name of the law. So with pages 105 and 106 of the Chinese marked up copy, we have similar changes to replace the English names with the Chinese names. Thank you. If there are no questions from members, we will move on to page 107. of the marked up copy. It is an amendment to Chapter 478P. Again, we have put in the Chinese names in place of the English names of the relevant provisions. So we have replaced merchant shipping registration tonnage regulations with the Chinese name, and merchant shipping safety closing of openings in hulls and in watertight bulkheads regulations, again with the relevant Chinese name. We now have some other amendments. Please refer to the English marked up copy.
Page 118 of the English marked-up copy. Before, on, or after this ordinance was enacted, we have made a grammatical change, changing it to before, on, or after the enactment of this ordinance. Then it is an amendment to the Chinese marked-up copy. It is only an amendment in the Chinese text. There is no change in the English text. Moving on to Division 9, Disability Discrimination Ordinance. The same amendments are made. There's also a grammatical amendment and a Chinese amendment. Before, on, or after this ordinance was enacted, we have changed it to before, on, or after the enactment of this ordinance. Mr. Huden Chow. Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to the change in the Chinese text, I read the provision, Section 3, This is amendment to the Chinese text. Well, we can see that, do we need to make changes in both spots? I need to seek clarifications from the administration. Do we need to make changes in both places with the same reference? Yes, Mr. Huden Chow is correct. The defense one, whether one has prevented someone from doing so, or are there any measures preventing an employee from doing something? When the government also receives reminders of not to do something. Well, I just want to seek clarifications. Now I understand. Thank you. Division 9, Disability Discrimination Ordinance. The change, it's the same. Well, yes, indeed. Please don't jump from one provision to another. We do want you to go through every single change with us. Thank you. Before, on, or after this ordinance was enacted, we have proposed changing it to before, on, or after the enactment of the ordinance. There is also a change in the Chinese text. There is no change in the English text. Is amendment in the English change? Page 127, Division 10, Fire Safety Commercial Premises Ordinance. We propose changing the word hose reel to two words, hose reel. That is two separate words. The FSD has already confirmed that they have decided to use host reel in different publications by the FSD. We have also conducted a search. For the sake of consistency, we have also proposed these changes. There's no change in the Chinese text. There's no need to amend the Chinese ordinance. Division 11, Patent Ordinance. We only make a change in the Chinese text.
咁你見到我哋咧，其實主要咧係將
Members can see that we have made a change in the Chinese text only. There are two missing words and we need to make these amendments in the Chinese text in order to ensure consistency. The next amendment is also a Chinese amendment. Cap 522 Subsidiary Legislation A. There's a wrong reference. In the English text, we can see the reference is 33, but in the Chinese text, the reference is to 34. Well, I'd like to know for how long has this typo been? The administration, please. This ordinance was enacted in 1997. We have spotted this typo. So we'll change 34 to 33 in this exercise. These are actually very important. I hope this won't be repeated once again. Lawyers also need to read ordinances. Page 134 of the English markup copy. First of all, we changed before, on, or after this ordinance was enacted to before, on, or after the enactment of this ordinance. In addition, there's also one other amendment in the Family Status Discrimination Ordinance. In the title, we change employees to employers. Actually, this is about the liability of employers and principals, hence the need to change the English text. It's about the end of the meeting, but I think it's possible that we will be able to finish the clause-by-clause scrutiny of the bill. So I exercise my power to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Thank you. There's another change to the Chinese text. There's no amendment to the English text. The next amendment, the Chinese and the English texts are also amended. We explained briefly just now. In the Copyright Ordinance, Section 189, subsection 3, under the law of that country, we add territory or area, and in the Chinese copy, we have also made an amendment. In subsection 1 and 2, the concept applies to the territory or area. These three words are used. Well, as we carry on, if the amendments are the same, for example, to Chief Executive, you can tell us which page numbers contain the same amendments. So for pages with identical amendments, we can proceed faster. It will be more efficient. Ms. Carmen Khan, page 136 of the English markup copy. Also on the point area. Under the Copyright Ordinance, Is the scenario actually the same also about the WTO? So we need to use the word area in the English text instead of the word place. In the Airport Authority Ordinance, you make an amendment, and that involves the amendment of using the word place, not area. Well, I think you can write us a letter to explain this change. Under the Copyright Ordinance, well, we can ask the administration to give more information, or else we can provide written reply. Ms. Mack? Thank you, Madam Chair. Usually in copyright ordinance, country, territory, or area is commonly used. We can study further this point with the DOJ. For most copyright ordinances, are these a common way of drafting the ordinances? If need be, we will propose an amendment. Yes, I understand that. The translation or the word used by international organizations use the word area. This is quite common. Ms. Carmen Khan also mentioned that you could give us a written reply. It can be kept as record. That is, we once proposed a translation issue. In English, are area and place considered to have the same explanation? You can study this point. Thank you. Division 15. Its amendment in the Chinese text. There's no amendment in the English text. That's amendment to the Chinese character radical. There's no amendment in the English text. The last amendment is in Fire Safety Building Ordinance. As we mentioned, we only changed the word hose drill from one word into two words. This is only an amendment in the English text. I thank members for your patience. For the sake of complete record, in the Chinese copy, it's usual to use that particular Chinese character radical. But then nowadays, these two Chinese character radicals are actually common. Back in the days while I was studying, we also used that particular Chinese character radical. So it's actually a common phenomenon. So that's exactly why back in black, we chose that particular Chinese character radical. We have already completed the clause-by-clause scrutiny of the bill. I have something to add. First of all, for some wording we have discussed, for example, from Crown, the Secretary mentioned a good point. Can you relate this phenomenon to the administration? When the word Crown is mentioned together with the Central People's Government, then the administration will have to follow it up. In the future, probably a lot of different bureaus and departments will make amendments in relation to adaptation. I hope bureaus and departments will work together and please use marked up copy. As you can see, we have a lot of bureau departments. And please don't jump from one page to another. You can tell us if there's the same point on different pages. Then you can let us know and the secretary can take note of it. You may think this will be a very quick exercise. However, to us, as we mentioned, please avoid code mixing. Whenever you code mix, I am reminded this is the first step. The first step of adaptation of law's elements. So I hope as we quicken the pace, we can stick to the same approach, and this will be the most effective approach. Probably you will have a good understanding of the situation, but then members as well as the legal advisor will have to follow up on the points.
冇一啲觀念
All right. Regarding other concerns raised by members, we do understand that some concerns may not be able to be resolved within this exercise. And some members also raised other provisions that have yet to be changed, and that should be changed. So I think the administration can provide more information, as the public has high expectations of the administration, and amend these other provisions in the second stage. But after all, I asked the administration to work expeditiously. For example, as the member mentioned, Laos, whether the Chinese name is still as said as that in the legislation, and I'll let the deputy chairman speak on this. Thank you. I think there should be a review on the official wording used by the central authorities. It is as Ms. Kamen Khan mentioned, before the 1950s, we would use the old Chinese name that is referred to in the legislation, but afterwards the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has used a new Chinese name for the country of Laos. But of course, there may be many of such, and these may not be able to be updated in time for all of them. But I asked the administration to follow up on this. Yes, I think that the administration should follow up on this. When I sat on Black, we had dealt with some of these. And I think that if something has not been dealt with in Black, the administration should promptly deal with such after the handover. And I urge the administration to conduct a more detailed review and make amendments as soon as practicable. For the provision that already had something deleted in 1989, the change should have been made much earlier. I understand that these colleagues here may not be personally responsible, but I would just say this, since we have already started the work of the review exercise, and you should have teams of legal experts helping you with such, we should undertake such work expeditiously. Please convey my views to the relevant colleagues in the bureaus and departments. Thank you. We have completed the clause-by-clause examination. So let me say this, members. If you intend to propose other amendments, you should submit such before noon of tomorrow, that is the 18th of June, to the Secretariat, and the Secretariat will circulate such propose amendments among members. And after we have completed the work in the Bills Committee, I will submit a report to the House Committee to report on the deliberations of the Bills Committee. I also want to ask the administration about the date on which the administration plans to resume the second reading debate. And I will say this because we have completed the deliberations or the clause-by-clause examination in particular. I will report the deliberations of the Bills Committee this Friday, that is 21st of June, 2024, and I hope members would understand because there are many bills that are waiting to have second reading debate resumed. So I would like to make a report to the House Committee as soon as possible to essentially make for the beeline. So legal advice there, or the clerk. Anything to add? Right, so if we are to make a report to the House Committee on 21st of June, does the administration have a date in mind when you plan to resume second reading debate? Well, we hope to resume second reading debate before the summer recess. So, members, please take note of when second reading debate is to be resumed. You may express your opinions during the resumption of second reading debate. I thank representatives of the administration for coming, and I also thank members of the Bills Committee for looking at the provisions closely during the 3 meetings of the Bills Committee. There being no other business, meeting adjourned.